When you look at this mural here, I'm reminded that you said here 8 years ago that you're here because somebody marched.
Not only would I not be here because I think our society wouldn't have changed as much as it has in 50 years, but this is also the source of inspiration that got me involved in public service in the first place. You know, when I was young, I didn't have aspirations of being president of the United States, but by the time I was in my late teens, early 20s, I'd started reading about the civil rights movement, and it fascinated me. And the reason it fascinated me was the idea that ordinary people, humble people, maids and domestics and Pullman porters, that they could have the courage to take on some of the most powerful forces in our society, and to see the concept of nonviolence mobilized in this way, to bring about ultimately changes in law that have made America better. What an extraordinary gift that is.
Well, as several people in the movement keep saying, you can change the law, but you can't change people's minds. How do you do that? Well,
you know, I tell you, I think Dr. King was asked about that sometime during the movement, and he said, well, you know, I might not be able to immediately change somebody's heart and mind, but if I can prevent them from lynching me, that's important too. And what happens is when laws change, then attitudes begin to change. When I hear people say, oh, not much has changed, that's just not true. Bill, you were here, and you know how much it's changed. And it's changed not just because we have an African-American president, it's changed in all kinds of people's daily interactions.
Mr. President, why is there such a disparity in the way blacks and whites see race relations?
Well, there's been obviously a different experience of race relations in this country. You know, the good news is that despite, I think, a lot of people saying that the country's divided around these issues, the truth is, in the aftermath of Ferguson and what happened in New York, you've seen a pretty constructive debate, a pretty constructive conversation.
You urged Congress to do something to repair what the Supreme Court took away.
Right.
But at the same time, you've got a large majority of both blacks and whites in our polling who say voter ID, no problem, they're for it.
Yeah. Well, you know, voter ID in and of itself is not the sole issue. The issue is, does the Justice Department have the tools through the Voting Rights Act to make sure that if a local jurisdiction is discriminating against a certain set of voters, black, Hispanic, white, Asian, that the Justice Department can actually get in there and fix it. And when it comes to voter ID, I think that the average person says to themselves, yeah, there's nothing wrong with a photo ID, until perhaps they get the information, which is not always provided during polling, that in some jurisdictions, getting a voter ID might cost $75, $100, $150. If you are somebody who is a senior citizen on a fixed income and you're not driving anymore, and you don't automatically have a driver's license, that may be.
No president can ever escape the concerns of his office. But yesterday it was clear that this president relished his moment in history.
Selma shows us that America's not the project of any one person. Because the single most powerful word in our democracy is the word we. We the people. We shall overcome. Yes, we can. That word is owned by no one. It belongs to everyone.